Okay, so your next set of readings was the Alan Lightman, Our Place in the Universe, paired with Hansel and Gretel. To me, this is a fantastic pairing. It works so beautifully well. And I love this essay a lot. A lot of you in your discussion boards expressed how much you liked this essay, even though you maybe didn't quite see the connection to Hansel and Gretel. So I'll try to clear that up for you a bit. Um, the big discussion in Lightman is about scale. That our universe is literally expanding, of course, but also our conception of the universe is expanding. That is, we're able to see farther and farther out, so our sense of scale is changing, which makes Earth, we're not only decentralized now, right, which was big earth-shattering worldview change, but we're getting smaller and smaller in terms of our size compared to the rest of the galaxy and then the universe out beyond the galaxy. And um, that existential concern that arises when you begin to realize, as he says, um, really the amount of living material in the universe is at its absolute most something. I think the number I don't have in front of me. Sorry, 1/10 of 1 millionth of 1 billionth of a percent. Right? It's a whole bunch of zeros and then and a one, which he says can't help but bear upon our sense of self, our sense of identity. And I think that's true. It emphasizes our smallness. Now, you may take that negatively and think, as he does, oh my gosh, maybe we weren't uh, knowingly and intentionally created. The universe is not about us. Or it may buoy you up and make you think, wow, I'm really special, right? Like, we need to take care of everything that we have here because the odds of us finding another planet that's produced the kind of life that we see on Earth, um, he says, it is approaching um, impossible odds. So, the idea of that scale, that scope, and our sense of insignificance, the existential concerns that come out of that, are explored in fairy tales. Almost as a de facto theme. It's hard to find fairy tales that aren't concerned at some level um, with that theme. And I think Hansel and Gretel does a really nice job of that because you do have the abandonment issue. You do have a nice image of kids wandering alone in a wilderness. And beyond that, what Lightman is talking about here is the edge of the known universe. That is, that there may be something out beyond what we can see, right out into that blackness somewhere beyond the 13.7 billion light year mark. We can't see it, not because it isn't there, but because light hasn't gone there. And I think it's beautifully paralleled in Hansel and Gretel, especially the version that we looked at, because that very first line, right at the edge of a forest. They dwelled at the edge of a forest, and it's a good reminder that the horizon hasn't always been so far away, right? That what was dark and mysterious wasn't always 13.7 billion light years away. It was the edge of a forest. And we see, again, as almost a de facto setting in European fairy tales, at least, the forest as a place of terror and a place of mystery and a place of magic. And as the great Sondheim musical Into the Woods says, anything can happen in the woods, right? It's the edge of the known universe for them, and they're taken out beyond that edge, and then strange things happen. You've got a candy house, right, with a witch inside that wants to eat them, and um, but it's also in that area where the ingenuity and the imagination, the creativity, um, and the agency of the children surfaces. Um, and there's a lot that you can explore there in terms of ideas, a lot there that you could talk about. And of course, it applies to a lot of other fairy tales. We see Little Red Riding Hood takes place in a forest. Um, uh, Many Rapunzel stories have the tower set in the middle of a forest or in the middle of a desert, some vast wilderness region. Um, and in Sleeping Beauty, there's a hedge, right, that keeps things out. So, there's a lot going on in the Lightman essay that can distract you from fairy tales. But he mentions again and again and again the importance of the imagination with the scientists who are making these discoveries. He talks Newton's imagination, he said, went beyond any experience that humans had ever had. And I love the image of Illingworth discovering the galaxy out at the edge at 13.7 billion miles away. And his only way to explain that is to say, well, it's hellishly far away. The kind of distances and stuff that we're talking about, we have no literal concept of. We can only use metaphors, uh, and we can only tell stories. I mean, he says the best way to think about the design of the universe and the layout of these galaxies is to imagine yourself as this enormous cosmic giant striding through the universe, and the galaxies are like houses that are lit up. And um, I like that, right? That's the scientist has to go back to the story to explain these things. Um, is a good reminder of what Fry talked about. And of course, then the stories that come out of these um, get couched in our particular cultural languages, which goes back to Googie, um, and the way that we understand our relationship to nature and our relationship to the world, um, which is why he talks about the Tallulah Falls painting by Cook. So there's a lot of ideas in there that you could explore, um, and it is a fun, I think, essay to look at.